I still remember how cold the air felt that night, sharp, like the edge of a knife. It was late November, and I'd just finished grabbing groceries at that dingy little store on the corner of Elmwood and 5th, the one with the flickering neon sign that always made the parking lot look like a crime scene. My breath came out in little clouds as I hurried through the lot, my sneakers crunching over broken glass. I was the only customer left, and the clerk had already locked the doors behind me. The streetlights were out, like always, and the only light came from the store's buzzing sign, casting long shadows across the asphalt. I remember thinking how stupid I was for not parking closer. Then I saw it, a white van, parked way too close to my car. It hadn't been there when I went in. The van was boxy, the kind you'd see in those true crime documentaries, no license plates, windows tinted so black they swallowed the light. My stomach dropped. I slowed my steps, pretending to fumble with my keys, but really, I was staring at the van's windshield, trying to see inside. Nothing. No movement, no silhouette. Just silence. The kind that presses against your eardrums. I forced myself to keep walking, but my skin prickled like static was crawling up my arms. You're being watched. The thought hit me so hard I almost ran. Instead, I unlocked my car with shaky hands, threw the bags in, and slammed the door. As I peeled out of the lot, I caught a glimpse in my rearview mirror. The van's headlights flicked on. It hadn't been empty after all. For days, I tried to laugh it off. You're being paranoid, I told myself. Maybe the van belonged to some contractor who'd parked like an asshole. Maybe the headlights were automatic. But then I'd wake up at 3 a.m., heart pounding, replaying it. The way the van's front tires were slightly turned, like it was ready to pull out fast. The way it had been angled just right to block my driver's side door. I started taking the long way home from work, avoiding that lot. Then, one morning, I was scrolling through local news and froze. A headline, police search for couple last seen at Elmwood Market. My fingers went numb. The article said they'd vanished after shopping there around 10 p.m. 3 nights before my encounter. No signs of struggle. Just gone. The police released grainy security footage, asking for tips. I clicked play. There it was, the same van, parked in the exact spot where I'd seen it. The timestamp showed it had been sitting there for 40 minutes before I even pulled into the lot. My coffee cup slipped out of my hand. The footage cut to a wider angle, a man in a hoodie walking toward the van, glancing over his shoulder. The way he moved was wrong, too calm, like he was counting seconds. Then it hit me. He'd been waiting. Not for just anyone. For someone alone. Someone distracted. Someone exactly like me. The article didn't say it, but I knew that van wasn't hunting randomly. It was stalking. And I'd walked right into its trap. I called the cops, but the officer who took my statement sounded like he'd heard it all before. No plates? Yeah, we've got bolos out for vans like that. He didn't even look up from his keyboard when I mentioned the timestamp. That's when I started digging myself. I spent nights hunched over my laptop, mapping missing persons reports within 20 miles. 3 in the past year, all last seen near 24-hour stores, all around 11 p.m. My hand shook when I found the thread on a local true crime forum. White van sightings, Elmwood area. User at Nightwalker77 had posted dashcam footage from a gas station 2 towns over. The timestamp was 2 weeks after my encounter. Same van, same tint, same predatory idol. The comments were a graveyard of "stay safe" and "this is why I carry." But one reply made my blood freeze. Saw this outside my apartment complex last night. It circled for an hour. I started sleeping with a knife under my pillow. I'd park my car under streetlights and take photos of the lot before walking in anywhere. Then, last Tuesday, I saw it again. I was grabbing takeout from a diner when I spotted the van through the window, pulled up across the street, headlights off. I dropped my fork so hard the waitress jumped. "You okay, hon?" I couldn't answer, because this time, the van's side door was cracked open. Just an inch. Enough to see the glow of a phone screen inside. Someone was recording. I bolted out the back exit, called an Uber 3 blocks away, and lied to the driver about why I was sweating. That night, I scrubbed my social media, terrified I'd been tagged somewhere with a location. Because now I knew this wasn't coincidence. They'd come back for me. I started carrying pepper spray and a personal alarm. My fingers curled around them like a lifeline every time I walked to my car. My friends joked I'd gone full conspiracy theorist, but their laughter died when I showed them the forum threads. Then, last Thursday, the news broke. Another disappearance. A college student leaving a late-night gym session. Security footage showed a white van. No plates, same tint, loitering near the entrance. This time, The cops took it seriously. A detective actually called me back. "We're reviewing all reports now," she said, but her voice was tight, like she was holding back panic. That's when I noticed the pattern. Every victim had been alone, but more than that, they'd all been wearing headphones. Distracted, unaware, just like I'd been that first night. I couldn't sleep. Every engine idling outside my apartment sent me scrambling to the window. Then, at 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "You notice things." No emoji, no context. My throat closed up. I threw my phone across the room like it was on fire. Was it a prank? A wrong number? Or had they found me? I spent the next hour hyperventilating, debating whether to call the cops. But what would I say? I got a creepy text? I was spiraling until I remembered the diner. The phone glowing in the van. They'd seen me notice them. That's when it clicked. This wasn't just about snatching people. It was a game. And I'd become a player the moment I looked too close. I decided to fight back. If they were watching me, I'd give them something to see. I bought a cheap burner phone, set up a fake social media profile, and started posting vague check-ins at random locations, always crowded places, always in daylight. My plan was stupid but simple: lure them out where I could get evidence. For a week, nothing happened. Then, on Friday the 13th, of course, I got another text. "Stop pretending." This time, my blood didn't freeze, it boiled. I typed back, "Who is this?" No reply. Just a single photo sent 5 minutes later, a blurry shot of my apartment building taken from the parking lot. The timestamp was 3 minutes ago. I grabbed my keys and ran. Not away toward. If they wanted me, they'd have to look me in the face. I burst into the parking lot, phone recording, screaming, "Show yourself." The lot was empty, just my echo bouncing off cars. Then I heard it, the low rumble of an engine starting near the dumpsters. Headlights flicked on, blinding me. The van. It peeled out so fast its tires screeched, but not before I got a clear shot of its bumper, a dent shaped like a crescent moon. I stood there shaking, adrenaline turning my vision sharp. I'd won. Or so I thought. The cops finally moved. The detective called me in, showed me a lineup of known offenders. None matched. Then she slid a folder toward me. "Recognize this?" Inside were evidence photos of the dented bumper, linked to a cold case from 2 years ago. "They've been doing this a long time," she said. I asked if I'd need to testify. She just looked tired. "If we catch them." I left feeling hollow. The van hadn't been seen since that night. Maybe they'd moved on. Maybe I'd scared them off. Or maybe they were waiting for me to forget. I still check my rearview mirror every time I drive at night. I still see white vans in my dreams. But here's the worst part. Last week, my neighbor mentioned a weird survey guy in a white van circling our complex. When I asked for details, he shrugged. No plates. Dark windows. Gone before I could get a picture. I didn't tell him about the dent. I didn't say a word. Because some games don't end. They just reset. And the player never knows when they're back on the board. My name's Jake, and I've been delivering food for about 3 years, mostly late-night shifts because the pay's better and the roads are empty. It was one of those dead, humid summer nights where the air feels like wet gauze, and even the crickets sound exhausted. Around 2 a.m., I got a ping for an order going to the old Lancaster apartments downtown. I'd passed that building 100 times, but never delivered there. The place had a reputation. The app showed a $15 tip, though, so I shrugged and took it. Big mistake. The second I pulled up, my stomach knotted. The building looked like it hadn't been maintained since the 80s. Flickering streetlight, cracked steps, and this weird, greasy film on the windows like someone had smeared them with old cooking oil. The lobby door was propped open with a cinder block, and inside, the hallway smelled like mildew and something metallic, like pennies left in the rain. Apartment 4B was on the top floor, and the elevator was out, so I had to take the stairs. Each flight got darker, the overhead bulbs dying one by one until I was practically feeling my way up by the sticky railing. When I reached the 4th floor, it was pitch black, not just dim, but swallowed dark, like the hallway had been lined with velvet. My phone flashlight barely cut through it. The door to 4B was at the very end, the numbers barely hanging on by one screw. I knocked, and a voice answered instantly, way too fast, like they'd been waiting right on the other side. "Leave it there," a woman whispered, her voice muffled but weirdly strained, like she was talking through a towel. "I'm not dressed. I've delivered to shy customers before, but this felt off." I set the bag down, said, "Have a good night," and turned to leave. That's when I heard it. Soft, shuffling footsteps creeping toward me from the darkness behind me. Even though I hadn't passed a single open door on my way in, I froze mid-step, my breath hitching in my throat. The footsteps weren't just there. They were close, like whoever, or whatever, was making them have been standing right behind me the whole time. My phone flashlight flickered as I whipped around, the beam slicing through the blackness. Nothing, just that endless hallway, the wallpaper peeling in long, tumor-like strips. But the air, Christ, the air had gone ice cold, like I'd stepped into a walk-in freezer. My skin prickled. I forced myself to look back at 4B's door, half expecting it to be wide open. Instead, it was still shut, the food bag gone. Not knocked over, not tossed aside. Gone, like the threshold had just swallowed it. A metallic taste flooded my mouth. I realized I'd bitten my tongue. That's when the whispering started. Not from the apartment, from the darkness itself, a wet, clicking murmur that seemed to come from all directions at once. No words, just this gurgle, like someone trying to speak with a throat full of water. My legs moved before my brain could process it. I booked it down the hall, sneakers squeaking on the grimy linoleum, but the hallway stretched longer than it should have. The stairwell door, only 20 feet away when I came in, now looked 50, then 100. The whispering surged louder, almost excited, and behind me, something dragged against the wall. Not a scrape, a squelch. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. Every survival instinct screamed that if I looked, I'd see it. And once you see something like that, you can't unsee it. The stairwell door handle finally hit my palm. It was damp. Warmed out, I slammed through the stairwell door so hard it cracked against the wall, the sound echoing like a gunshot. The stairs were still there, thank God, but the fluorescents overhead buzzed like angry wasps, flickering in a way that made the shadows jump. I took the steps 3 at a time, my backpack thumping against my spine, but no matter how fast I ran, the ground floor never seemed to get closer. That's when I noticed the handprints, smudged along the railing, glistening under the sickly light, too dark to be water, too thick to be anything but blood. Fresh, too. My stomach lurched. The whispers from upstairs had stopped, but now there was breathing. Ragged, wet, and it wasn't mine. I hit the lobby like a freight train, skidding into the front doors. They were locked, chained from the inside. The metal links rusted but secure, like they hadn't been opened in years. My hands shook as I yanked at them, the realization hitting me like a punch. The cinder block propping the door open earlier was gone. Behind me, the elevator, the one that had been broken, dinged. A mechanical hum filled the air as it descended from the 4th floor. The numbers above the door ticked down. 3, 2, L. I didn't wait to see what would step out. I bolted down the basement hallway, my phone dying as I searched for an exit. The air smelled like rotting meat. Somewhere in the dark, something giggled. The basement was a maze of exposed pipes and crumbling concrete, the only light coming from emergency exit signs with half-dead batteries. My sneakers slipped on something wet. I didn't look down. The giggling echoed again, closer now, bouncing off the walls like it was coming from every direction at once. I spotted a service door at the end of the corridor, the word boiler stenciled in peeling paint. It was slightly ajar. I dove inside, slamming it shut behind me, and fumbled for a lock. There wasn't one. The room was pitch black, the air thick with the stench of mildew and something sour, like spoiled milk. My phone screen flickered one last time before dying completely, plunging me into total darkness. That's when I heard it, a slow, deliberate knock on the door. Not from the hallway. From inside the room with me. I stopped breathing. The knocking came again, 3 soft taps, right next to my ear. My body locked up, every muscle screaming to run. But where? The room was small, claustrophobic. I could feel the presence now, a weight in the air pressing against my skin, something inhumanly close. Then, a whisper, so quiet I almost missed it. "You forgot the receipt." The voice was wrong, garbled, like 2 people speaking at once, one choking. I recognized it anyway. It was the same woman from 4B. The doorknob rattled. Not the one behind me, the one in front of me. There was another door here, one I hadn't seen in the dark. It creaked open, revealing a sliver of dull yellow light. A hand slid through the gap, pale and too long, fingers twitching like spider legs. The giggling erupted again, this time from inside my own head. Adrenaline burned through me like a live wire. I lunged sideways, my shoulder slamming into a metal shelf lined with rusted tools. Wrenches and pipes clattered to the floor, and then I felt it. A fire extinguisher. My fingers closed around the handle just as the door swung wide open. The thing standing there wasn't the woman from 4B. It wasn't even close to human. Its limbs were stretched too thin, its torso a twisted mess of angles that made my eyes hurt. The face. God, the face was just a gaping hole with too many teeth, like a broken garbage disposal. It took a step forward, its joints popping wetly. I didn't think. I just swung the extinguisher as hard as I could. The impact sent a jolt up my arms, and the thing let out a shriek that sounded like radio static mixed with nails on a chalkboard that I didn't wait to see if it got back up. I bolted past it, through the door, and into another hallway. This one lined with old, yellowed mirrors. My reflection stared back at me, wild-eyed and sweating, but something was off. The mirrors weren't showing the hallway behind me. Instead, each one reflected a different room, a blood-stained kitchen, a closet filled with moving shadows, and then 4B, the apartment I'd just left. Inside the mirror, the food bag I'd delivered sat on the floor, untouched. The door swung open slowly, and I saw myself step out. Not the real me, the mirror me. It turned its head and grinned, its mouth stretching way too wide. Behind it, the thing with the broken face lurched into view, its fingers brushing my doppelganger's shoulder like they were old friends that I stumbled backward, my pulse hammering in my throat. The mirrors were changing now, the reflections melting like wax, twisting into versions of me that screamed silently, their hands pressed against the glass. Then, one of them knocked. A sharp, impatient rap of knuckles that made my breath stop cold. The sound spread like a virus, mirror after mirror rattling as something on the other side fought to get out. The hallway lights flickered, and for a split second, I saw them clearly. Dozens of hollow-eyed Jakes, their mouths sewn shut with black thread, their fingers clawing at the glass. The real horror? They weren't trying to escape. They were trying to switch places. I turned to run, but the floor tilted violently beneath me, sending me crashing into the wall. The fire extinguisher slipped from my grip and rolled away, its metal clanging like a funeral bell that I don't remember how I got out. 1 second, I was crawling toward a sliver of moonlight at the end of the hall, the building's boarded-up back exit, now inexplicably cracked open. The next, I was on my knees in the alley behind the Lancaster, vomiting onto the pavement. My car was still parked out front, keys dangling from the ignition like I'd left in a war zone. I drove until the sun came up, windows down, my hands shaking too hard to light a cigarette. The app showed no record of the delivery, no $15 tip, no 4B. When I went back a week later, the building was condemned, its windows bricked over. But sometimes, when I'm delivering late at night and my phone dies unexpectedly, I'll catch a flicker of movement in the corner of my eye. And I swear, just before I look, I hear a muffled voice whisper, "You forgot the receipt." Back in 2021, I was working as a remote dev for some startup, living alone in this rented house on the outskirts of Belo Horizonte. The place was cheap but isolated, surrounded by scraggly trees and a dirt road that nobody ever used. My routine was basically code, coffee, and doom scrolling until 2 a.m., then passing out on the couch. I didn't even have a porch light until the landlord installed one that March motion activated, supposedly to deter trespassers. That's why the first call didn't freak me out. Just spam, right? Wrong. It came at 3:17 a.m. sharp. WhatsApp video, unknown number. 2 rings, then silence. I blocked it. Next night, same time, different number, same hollow, mechanical ringing. By the 5th night, my hand shook every time my phone lit up in the dark. I tried everything, turning off my phone, changing my privacy settings, even leaving it in the fridge, don't ask. The calls kept coming. Then, on the 9th night, I cracked. I answered. The screen flickered to life for maybe 1 second, just long enough to see a shaky, overexposed shot of my own damn porch. The light was on, casting that same sickly yellow glow it always did. And then, like a glitch, the call died. My blood turned ice. I sprinted to the window, yanked the curtain back. Nothing. No cars, no footsteps, just the wind scraping branches against the roof. But the trash bin, the heavy-ass metal one I never moved, was tilted sideways, like someone had bumped into it running away. That's when I realized whoever was calling me wasn't just watching. They were right outside. I didn't sleep at all that night. Every creak of the house sounded like a footstep. Around 5 a.m., I finally mustered the courage to check outside, kitchen knife in hand like some bad horror movie cliché. The bin was definitely moved, scratches in the dirt trailed toward the trees. But here's the thing, my motion sensor light never triggered. That porch light only turns on if something crosses its path. And I watched the video, it was on during the call. So how did they film it without setting it off? My brain short-circuited between this is a prank and something unnatural is happening. I even wondered if I'd hallucinated it. But my call log didn't lie. 3:17 a.m., 2-second video call. The timestamp burned into my screen like an accusation. The next day, I installed cameras, 2 cheap ones from the electronics market, pointed at the porch and driveway. I told myself it was for peace of mind, but really, I was baiting them, whoever they were. That night, I sat rigid on the couch, phone in one hand, laptop open to the camera feed. 3:17 hit. My phone buzzed, unknown number. This time, I didn't answer. Just watched the cameras. For 3 seconds, nothing. Then, like clockwork, the porch light flicked on. The feed glitched, pixels scrambling, and for half a second, a shadow passed the lens. Not a person, not an animal, just a streak of darkness, like ink bleeding through water. The light cut off. My phone stopped ringing. And then, from somewhere in the house, I heard the faintest tap against glass. Not the window, my phone screen. As if something had reached through the call, and the next morning, I rewound the camera footage frame by frame, my hands shaking so hard I had to press pause 3 times. The shadow wasn't just a blur, it had shape. Tall, too tall, with limbs that didn't move right, like they were bending in places they shouldn't. And the way it passed the camera, it didn't walk. It glitched, flickering in and out like a corrupted video file. My stomach dropped when I realized something else. The timestamp on the footage didn't match my phone. The cameras showed the light turning on at 3 hours, 16 minutes and 58 seconds, but my call came in at 3 hours and 17 minutes on the dot. A 2-second delay. That's when I noticed the real nightmare. In the footage, right before the shadow appeared, my own front door was already slightly open. But I deadbolted. I always deadbolted. I called the cops. Not because I thought they'd believe me, but because I needed someone to witness whatever was happening. The officer who showed up humored me, checked the doors, even walked the tree line. Probably kids, he said, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. He hesitated before leaving, like he wanted to say something else. Then, almost too quiet to hear, "You know this area used to be farmland, right? Old places, they hold on to things." I laughed it off, but the second his taillights disappeared down the road, my phone buzzed, 3:17 p.m. daylight. A video call. I dropped it like it was on fire. The screen cracked, but not before I saw the preview, a close-up of my own terrified face, filmed from inside the house. I didn't pick up the call. Couldn't. My body locked up, like my nerves had been severed. The phone kept ringing, vibrating against the tile floor, that same unknown number flashing over and over. When it finally stopped, the silence was worse. I grabbed a baseball bat and tore through the house, checking closets, under beds, even the damn attic crawl space. Nothing. But the air smelled wrong, like ozone and wet soil, and my skin prickled the whole time, like I was being followed room to room by something just out of sight. The worst part? My laptop was open on the couch, still on the camera feed. The live view showed the porch, and the front door was wide open again. Swinging gently, like someone had just let themselves in. I bolted to the door, bat raised, ready to swing, but the porch was empty. No footprints, no broken branches, nothing. Just that goddamn trash bin, now lying on its side in the middle of the driveway. I was about to slam the door when I heard it, a soft, staticky giggle coming from my phone. Not a notification, not a ring-on. A child's laugh, warped and distant, like it was being played through a broken radio. I looked down. My screen was lit up, not with a call, but with a WhatsApp message from the same unknown number. Just 2 words, "Look up." My blood turned ice. Above me, the motion sensor light flickered once, twice, then died with a faint pop. And in that split second of darkness, I swear I saw something move on the roof. Something crouched. Something waiting. I didn't wait to see what was on the roof. I sprinted inside, slammed the door, and shoved a chair under the knob like that would do anything. My phone buzzed again, this time. A video file auto-downloaded. No way in hell was I opening it. but the thumbnail made my stomach drop. It was my living room, filmed from the ceiling corner, right where I was standing. The timestamp read 3:17 a.m., but it was still daylight outside. I grabbed my laptop and pulled up the camera feed again, rewinding to the last trigger. There it was. At exactly 3 hours, 16 minutes, and 58 seconds, the porch light flicked on, the door creaked open, and then the feed cut to static for 3 seconds. When it came back, something was different. The coffee table was nudged 2 inches to the left. A blanket I'd left on the couch was folded. And on the screen, barely visible in the distortion, was a single frame of a face, not human, not animal, just stretched. Like it had too many features in the wrong places. That's when the whispering started. Not from my phone, from the walls. It was my own voice, but wrong, slurred, and glitchy, repeating snippets of conversations I'd had days earlier. You should check the locks. Who calls at 3:17? It's in the Wi-Fi. I ripped the router from the wall. The whispering didn't stop. I threw my phone into the sink, ran the faucet. The screen stayed lit, now showing a live feed of my backyard. The trash bin was upright again, and sitting on top of it was a small, shadowy figure, swinging its legs like a kid on a park bench. It turned its head toward the camera. No eyes, just 2 black pits and a smile too wide for its face. The last thing I heard before I blacked out was my own voice, whispering through the speakers. You should have answered the call. I woke up on the kitchen floor at 2:53 a.m., my head pounding like I'd been drugged. The house was silent. No whispers, no glitching screens. My phone lay in the sink, dead but bone dry. Had I even really drowned it? I grabbed a flashlight and checked every corner, my pulse screaming in my ears. That's when I saw it. Fingerprints on the bathroom mirror. Not smudges. Deliberate letters, etched in something thick and dark. You're home. The Wi-Fi was still unplugged. My laptop was off. But as I backed away, the motion sensor light outside flicked on. Through the window, the trash bin sat perfectly centered in the driveway. And on top of it, gleaming under the yellow light, was my own phone. Cracked screen lit up with a WhatsApp notification. 1 missed call, 3:17 a.m. I moved out the next morning. Didn't pack half my shit. Just threw clothes in a bag and drove to a friend's place in the city. The call stopped. The fingerprints washed off. But sometimes, when I'm alone too late, my new phone will buzz with a notification. WhatsApp, 1 new message. I never open it. I know what it'll say. Because last week, my friends kid asked why I kept staring at their porch light. It turned on by itself, they said. But nobody's there. I didn't explain. Just check the time. 3:17 p.m. The shadow never left. It just learned to hide in daylight.